so proudly we hailed, and the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fights, oh, the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets rattling, the bombs bursting in air, gave us through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land under the fray, and the home of the brave?
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Freedom Network. Gary Rosenberg, your host. So glad that you joined us right here on NC TV 11. We are here with you for some hard-hitting politics today, as we always are on the Freedom Network. Again, glad you joined us. TimorGary@gmail.com. That's how you get a hold of us directly. Send in any of your comments. Agree, disagree, doesn't matter. We love to hear from you, and we've been really excited about the response that we've got from our first few shows, and please keep the responses coming. If you want something to be put on the air, remember, you got to tell me that you want it to be put on the air, because I don't have the ability to talk about what you want me to talk about unless you tell me. We don't like to ambush people and just put stuff out. So we've got a few dozen emails, and we know that that's going to grow. TimorGary@gmail.com. And show ideas, community stuff that's going on, whatever you may want to get out there about Northbridge, about the state, about the country, whatever it is, let us know. We have absolutely some great production people. We can help you get that message out there. We like to be part of the community, and we like to help it move forward. So speaking of moving forward, before I get into some of the other stuff that I want to get into today, I've had many conversations about, and heard many conversations about the override that didn't pass, the budget that was cut at the schools. And yeah, it stinks when you got to cut stuff out of a budget, especially stuff that you know the kids enjoy and want to do. But there's a little misinformation out there, because, you know, we saw that we had an amazing amount of cuts made. Now, they were going to make an amazing amount of cuts whether this override passed or whether it didn't pass. As I have said all along, and I maintain, what we need to do is change the way we deal with funding in the town. That's what we need to do. That fixes the problem. That doesn't give you a short-term solution and a whole bunch of cuts anyway that will happen year and year after year. Let's face it, we are not going to pass an override in this town based on everything growing outside of the schools, budgets, salaries, and things of that nature. We won't get where we want to go. That's why I was against it in the first place, because it's not going to solve the problem. So why raise taxes if we're not going to solve the problem? The other thing is we can make these changes in town meeting. We can make these changes through the Board of Selectmen, with them, or by putting new people in that will make the changes that we want. So it's a twofold situation, but email me if you'd like to be involved. Some others have already, and we're putting together a group of people that are going to get the job done. Strength is in numbers, and I'm a little dismayed by the fact that we've had a lot of yes voters, quite frankly, not wanting to jump on with this idea. Makes absolutely no sense to me. It's got to be driven by ego, or it's got to be driven by, you don't like me? Well, that's okay. I'm not going to be in charge of it, so don't worry. Some other very capable people will be. But at the end of the day, we need to change the way the town funds the schools, not so much how much money the town brings in. Once we get that in order, we want to vote on an override. Let's vote for overrides for pay increases for the town manager. Let's vote for overrides for things that, if they lose, the town doesn't lose as much. Anyway, we've beat that thing to death, I think, with the override. We know where we stand. timogary@gmail.com if you want to get involved. And again, if you're a yes voter and you don't want to get involved, I want you to stand up, go to your bathroom, look in the mirror, and ask yourself why. Because if it's because it's not your idea, then you're really doing a disservice to both yourself, the town, the kids, the teachers, and everybody within it. So I went and I picked up a newspaper, and I was amazed at some of the stories that were in it. I wanted to go through and share some of them with you. From time to time on the Freedom Network, we'll just grab a paper. Today we get the Herald. We'll do a left-leaning paper the next time we do this, and just kind of see the stories, see what's going on, see how they write them, and what's making news. Well, the first thing I noticed, to be honest with you, George Bush, Sr., 90th birthday, parachutes out of the plane. I mean, I tell you, 90 years old, strap yourself to some guy and jump out of a plane. I mean, A, I hope I live to be 90, and B, no, I would never jump out of a plane, let alone if I was 90. I guess if you're 90 years old, though, what the hell, right? I mean, you know, how much more time, I guess, do you really have? You might as well, if you're going to do it when you're 90 years old. But 41st president made his big jump. He does it every few years, and I don't think he plans to do it again. But you know what? It made me think when I was looking at the picture of him coming in, and when you see it on TV or just go to YouTube, they came in hot. All right, they were coming in pretty fast. Just amazing to see him in a wheelchair one day and jumping out of a plane the next. Just awesome. Just really awesome stuff. So anyway, as we go through the paper, we find bad news, right? Bad news, bad news, bad news. This guy killed that guy. This person was raped. It's just like hell and damnation out there, right? So it's nice when you come to a story about a former president, a birthday, something that's a little more lighthearted, if you will. Because what's not lighthearted, folks, is what's going on in Iraq. As we speak, as you watch this, militants are just taking more and more control over that country that we have left. And, you know, we knew, I think, that this was going to happen. I don't think that it's too big of a stretch that these jihadists have decided that they're going to take over Iraq. And I'm going to tell you, they're taking city by city by city. And it doesn't look like they're going to stop. So, I mean, it's amazing. You know, we have Obama flying drones all over the United States of America, spying on people. Why aren't we having some drones take these guys out? I mean, are we fighting a war on terror or are we not? And that's been the problem since Bush started this war. We're not fighting it as we need to fight it. And that's why it's not going to ever end. Because if you want to end the war on terror, you've got to go where the terrorists are and you got to kill them. You know, we fought world wars. And we won world wars, not by surgical bombing, not by saying you can't fire because there's a church there, a mosque there, a temple there, whatever the heck it is. We knew where they were and we blew it up. And we did it over and over and over and over again, and eventually there just weren't enough of them left. We don't seem to have the appetite for that anymore in the United States, and that's pretty sad, because what's happening is we're just slowly allowing Americans to be killed in Iraq and other places around the world, and we're not getting any return on the ultimate investment of life. And that, to me, is just completely unacceptable. I've said it before, what really needs to be done is the world, not just the United States, but the world needs to start at one end and go to the other end of the Middle East and rid it of the terrorists. In the amount of time and in the amount of money that we have spent on this war already, we could have absolutely had a bigger impact. Now, some people say that war breeds terrorists. Well, that's true to a degree. If you grow up and all you know is America keeps bombing you, then of course you're going to eventually get to a point where you're not going to like America. I mean, that would just stand to logical reason. But, you know, the fact of the matter is that we were attacked. We didn't attack anybody. And we don't have a country to so much declare war on as we do an ideology of terrorism. So, excuse me, pardon me, I have a little cold. If you think about it, we're sitting and we're playing a vicious game of chicken with a bunch of people that want to kill us. Now, what I always found funny were you get these left-wing guys out there, and well, you have to understand them, and you have to understand their plight, and you have to understand the history. You know what? To be quite honest with you, I don't got to understand nothing, okay? You came over here, you attacked us, right? You killed thousands of people, and then you go hide amongst other people. Well, blow the damn thing up. I'm over seeing our kids sent to die for no real reason, just so we can fight some politically correct war. I think it's time to take the gloves off. We have not taken the gloves off yet. And until we do, this is what we're going to get. The same thing is going to happen in Afghanistan when we leave Afghanistan en masse, which will happen over the next several years. So we're winding down a war that's not winding down. Obama's trading deserters and giving bona fide terrorists a ride back home to fight us again. Does anybody think that these people are just going to go out of Guantanamo Bay, they're going to leave the prison and go be a farmer somewhere in Iraq or somewhere else? Do you really believe that? So when I hear the left say that I need to understand, you know what I say? No, let the world understand. We're a superpower. We are the big guys on the block. And we will kick your butt if you want to come and mess with us. We haven't done that. I mean, we could take over any country that we wanted. We can disable any government that we want in the Middle East. There is no government in the Middle East, no army in the Middle East that could come close to matching the power, might, sophistication, and intelligence of the United States Armed Forces. So that's not the problem. The problem is the will of not just the leadership, but the will of the people to be able to let it happen. And it's a awful thing, war. And we've been doing and going through this for way too long. I mean, this is the longest war we've ever fought. What we're spending in blood and in treasure to get nothing, to see on the first 5 pages of the newspaper that militants seize Iraq territory. And this is not that they just have a little bit of territory. These guys are Al-Qaeda supporters, some former Al-Qaeda members. These are the exact people that planned to attack us and did so. And what are we doing about it? We're letting prisoners go. That's what we're doing. We're letting prisoners go. Does this make any sense to anybody? And if it does, please email me at timagary@gmail.com and let me know how the mind of somebody works that thinks that what we're doing is accomplishing anything. Like I said before, you want to stop terrorism, you got to fight it, and you got to fight fire with fire. So, what do we do about it? Where do we go from here? Well, first things first, when you look at the Geneva Convention, the Geneva Convention does not allow for prisoner swaps until the war is over. And the reason for that is because it can prolong the war. That's why it's written. Look it up. I always encourage people on the Freedom Network, get on your computer and look things up. Get 3 to 5 sources. You'll see all different stories, but you'll find the truth within. Because if you don't do that, you're just being led by what you read in one newspaper or watch on one TV program like this one. Challenge it. Challenge everything you're told by me and by anybody. But what you'll find in the Geneva Convention is that you are not, by law, allowed. Now, the liberals love the world body government kind of crap, right? So if they love this so much, why don't they want to follow the Geneva Convention? I mean, folks, we have a president in office that is such a disaster, such a disgrace, that we're losing it. We're losing America. We're losing the basic freedoms that we have. We're losing the ability to be looked at as the big guy on the block. People don't fear us anymore. People don't respect us anymore. They just do what they want. Putin had a demonstration, if you will, a military exercise where about 50 miles off the northern coast of California, up near Washington, they were flying turboprop bombers capable of being equipped with nuclear bombs. And they said that it was just an exercise. They've done this several times before. The Soviet Union did. Putin looks at Obama as weak. Look at what just happened and look at what's going to continue. Do you think that Putin is not going to take more land from Ukraine and other countries as well? You're absolutely living in a la-la land if you think for even 1 second that Putin is done. And how is Putin even in charge, right? I mean, the guy didn't even win his election, and somehow he's back in charge again. We have to be very careful. You know, it's one thing to mess up domestically and do something stupid like pass Obamacare, which the Affordable Care Act is nothing close to affordable. But that's a domestic thing, and we can fix that because we can vote people in to fix that. So, yes, it will hurt the economy. Yes, it will hurt things to a degree. But at the end of the day, we can fix it. You can't fix stupid, though, right? And Obama is behaving so stupidly on the world stage that what's happening is we're losing everything that we fought for hundreds of years to obtain. So he's tearing down the basic infrastructure of America, starting with executive orders, doing things like the prisoner swap that he does not have the darn authority to do. He's got to go through Congress. We have laws, for crying out loud, and he just doesn't want to follow them. So it just blew my mind to watch the news over the past few days, excuse me, and to see what's going on in Iraq and will go on in Afghanistan. It's going to happen. They call it the Islamic State in Iraq. Do you understand what these people want? Do you really understand it? I mean, when they talk about Sharia law and things of this nature, you know, look at the news article that just came out of the Middle East. I think it was in, I'm not going to misquote, I don't want to say where, it came out of a Islamic-ruled country. You'll Google it and find it in 7 seconds. A father had arranged for his daughter to marry somebody, and she went and married somebody else. He killed her for that. Killed her. Brutally. I believe he burned her alive. This is the ideology that you're dealing with. That's reality. When a woman screws up and doesn't walk behind her husband, she risks being stoned or beaten. If she's not escorted, she risks being stoned or beaten. These folks live in the dark ages. The evolution is non-existent. The tolerance doesn't ever exist. They tolerate nothing. They won't make peace with Israel. They couldn't care less. They won't make peace with America. They won't make peace with anybody. They don't really have any friends. They have partners, but they don't really have friends, nor are they friends with each other. You know, when you get a big mess like that, you got to clean it up. There's just no other way around it, folks. So there was an interesting, there was a very interesting, and I want to find that and show it to you, or read it to you. Retired U.S. Army Colonel Ralph Peters. He's a Fox News strategist now. He was asked a few questions, and one of the best things that I think that he said was,